Vouchers. Please stand and join us in the pledge. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I've asked the CAO to just give an announcement before we get started on a proposed meeting or lack thereof for the Board of Supervisors.
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board and the public. January 19th, there is only one item for the board to take action on, and I am seeking board direction as to whether or not you'd like to cancel that meeting. It is an item that can be rescheduled for another date. There is no urgency matter before you.
Does any of the board have a problem?
With us. Jeannie really helped. It was right at the beginning of the commission status, getting the commission anchored and operating well in the county. She was part of a decision and a continued funding of a program called MITCH, the Mother Infant Child Harvest Program, which funded fresh produce vouchers to kids birth to 5 in the county and their mothers so that they would have nutritious food while they were growing up. And that went to a national model through WIC. So now every WIC qualifying child in the nation and expectant and nursing mother gets fresh produce because of this commission in your community, and Jeannie was a part of that. But what we're here to do today is to honor Jeannie and recognize her and share our appreciation for her 8 years on our commission. We didn't get to do that when she accepted the position of CAO, but we're very proud to have her move from our commission to the CAO position. So we have a plaque that we're presenting to Jeannie, and it's in appreciation for her contribution to the health and well-being of Calaveras County's youngest citizens as role of commissioner for the Calaveras County Children and Families Commission from 2002 to 2010. And we would like to present that to her today.
Thank you very much.
I'll not too far away. Thank you very much.
Yes, we know where you are now.
I know. And my many thanks to the commission and all the commissioners present and past that have doing this work very well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now,
Congratulations.
with that appreciation, I'm going to take 1 minute. The Board of Supervisors and the community know, with the budget crisis, our governor has recycled. He's very good at recycling, as we know, and promoting green. But what he's done is he's recycled a proposition that was put on the ballot last year and failed. And that was a third ballot attempt to change the funding and the use of First 5 funds in the state of California. Governor Schwarzenegger in his budget proposal has proposed to take half of all county revenues from Prop 10 and direct them to the state to be used for health and human services for children birth to 5. What that'll do to this county, it will eliminate some very important programs. If this proposition is adopted and goes to ballot in June, we're looking at losing some significant programs, such as the commission just approved some new funding to reinstate the MITCH model, which is those produce vouchers to children birth to 5 and mothers food at the food bank. All of those children and mothers are below 200% of the federal poverty level. And right now, the food bank is telling us there are 365 children birth to 5 each month that are getting food at the food bank. Our birth rate is about 370. So you can figure that's about 20% of our kids birth to 5 that are living in food insecure homes. That would put us right at about a 20% poverty rate for kids birth to 5. Those are just the kids we know that are going to the food bank. But that funding that the commission approved, the MITCH vouchers Those vouchers are used in the county. They go to our markets, so the money stays local. Families have nutritious produce for their kids, so they, instead of just filling the belly with less nutritious calories, they're giving them the nutritious food that we know that their brains need to develop. And that money, the biggest benefit to the county with that is that it will be used as a match fund for our stimulus funds through CalWorks. They can use those dollars. They serve as a match to draw down 80% more dollars from the feds, should that application be approved. So that's one of our newest and proven benefits from First Five, is the Mitch program. But we also fund virtually all of the dental services for kids birth to 5. We have all of our Head Start and state preschool kids, which again are income qualifying kids, and many private preschools getting dental services that are funded by First Five. Again, those funds serve as leverage to draw down Medi-Cal that allow dental services for kids of other ages. We fund preschool slots. We fund a literacy program that serves all of the children in Head Start and state preschool enrollment, and some private preschools. That literacy program isn't just about reading a book to a child. It's about increasing their vocabulary, getting them ready to be able to have the literacy, the language, and the vocabulary to understand the concepts they're going to need to know later on and be successful in school. So those are just a few of the examples.
I know it's not something we like to do. Okay. If I hear no dissent, the meeting's canceled, and if you could
I'll work with the clerk.
make sure there's a media blitz on that.
Okay, we'll do that. Take care of that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. What? No. Okay,
Go forward, Madam Chair.
all right. The results of the closed session last week.
Of what's funded in the county. If this changes, we're not looking at it's presented as a one-time change to the proposition, a one-time budget proposal. However, First Five's the only program that one-time change is actually a 5-year proposal. You will lose those funds for this county for 5 years, 50%. We also know that it's a flat rate that they're asking to take. They're asking to take what is currently 50% of our funds over the next 5 years, even though we know that current rate will be coming out against a decreasing fund. Right now we're at 10% of we're 10% lower than our collections from last year for our cigarette tax. So it's a decreasing fund. So the state's looking at taking 50% for 5 years, and that's a flat 50%, and we'll be getting a decreasing amount each year. So the reason I share that is this would be the time if anybody thinks our services and the small amount of funding we get to serve kids birth to 5 is important, to write to the governor before that proposition becomes real.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Steve?
I'd like to add my comments to this because I think it is a critical moment for this county on these services. The California voters were wise when they recognized the science of how important the first 5 years are and what a difference some investment in kids' health and well-being in those on those very important years means for somebody's entire life. And they voted overwhelmingly to do something that had a local impact. That is, it wasn't a one-size-fits-all state-imposed thing, usually great ideas with no serious funding or ongoing basis, and no ability to plan past a year. That's the state. What First Five gives us a chance to do on a 5-year basis with some, although there's a fluctuating amount of smoking, but the other beauty of this was we were taking the thing that was most damaging to health in California, or one of the things that are most damaging, and actually putting it toward the best possible use for the promotion of kids' health. To lose this in a county that is now suffering economics of staggering proportions, and especially on the food, and something that wasn't mentioned is that a kid with dental problems has a hard time having any kind of sense of self-worth. It's hard to speak. Sometimes it's hard to even get to school. And so we find that that's one of the preventions that makes a big difference in how well a child begins life and continues. Language skills, reading, all of that comes through to some extent, your ability to get to school and feel healthy when you're there. So our local First Five has really done a lot to analyze what are the key points of sort of gaps in service that can be filled, and what can we do locally to fill those needs. It seems to me a very important time for us to take a position, and you can see this in any number of ways. One is the worth of the services, which I think are indisputable in this county. But the second would be that this is an ongoing relationship between local impositions and the continued evisceration of local programs to fill a state need that is also a true need, but has been so poorly handled, so mismanaged, that they're now raiding a county like this to try to make their ends meet is wrong in and of itself. So I'm hoping that this board will go on record in support of our local First Five and against this draconian and wrong initiative. Recycled or not, it was wrong the first time, and it's even wronger now under these circumstances.
Okay, thank you. Karen, could you keep it to 30 seconds, please?
Thank you.
Good, thank you very much.
I just had one question.
Could you please identify yourself?
Bonnie Newman from
Thank
Double
you.
Springs. How much money does our county get? How much are we talking about?
Our cigarette tax disbursement is right now about $280,000 a year, and so it'll be 50 to 53% off of that. It is decreasing. What that does, though, is it allows us to leverage funds to match, so we draw down some additional match and augmentation funds from the state, and our state draw is about $500,000, and we will not be able to do that. So what sounds like 50% off of $280,000 actually becomes much more significant. We lose the balance.
Pursuant to Government Code 54957 on public employee dismissal, discipline release, resulting in no action taken. On the consent agenda, item 3, the resolution authorizing the disability retirement of Eric Lamb will be rescheduled to a future date. On the consent agenda, these items are normally routine, non-controversial. Does any member of the...
We would lose the ability to match those stimulus funds and other funds.
Thank you. We're going to be hearing about that from a lot of entities as we work into this budget year. So I thank you for keeping a heads up on it.
I'm Ingrid Brown, 7900 Cabernet. I'm here today to ask, while in Calaveras County, the law does not matter. Question: if you've been driving for 10 years without a driver's license and you finally get caught, you don't pay your fines, you have two $10,000 warrants out for failing to appear. Bingo! What happens? The jail for women is not full. I checked yesterday. There are some people that are above the law. Why don't we put up a sign on the county line that reads, "We welcome criminals here because you can get away with anything." As for a tax-paying, law-abiding citizen, I demand something to be done so that the roads are safe, and an answer why we are not following the law. I'm ending my question with a thought of Dr. Luther Martin King. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter.
Thank you, Ms. Brown.
I'm Penny West, Director of the Calaveras Arts Council, and I'm here today with good news. At the beginning of last week, a set of our historic iron doors were stolen from the back of the county building that is our home on Main Street in San Andreas. Through the diligence of a few, including the county sheriff's department, the county buildings and grounds, Dave Allen and Kevin Brady, the Hurd Machine Shop, Gary Hurd in particular, and the Calaveras Enterprise. The doors were found by the end of last week.
Hey, all right.
They have a suspect, and we feel like we're back being protected again by the iron doors. Also, while I'm here, I wanted to clarify that contrary to published reports, I am not leaving the Calaveras Arts Council. As you well have experienced before, probably misinterpretations happen when you are communicating. I enjoy my part-time efforts, and they're with our small, mighty salaried part-time staff. I'm proud to say that the series is off to a very successful start. All three of our Nutcracker performances were sold out, as was last Sunday's Russian performance, and we're on to another one, we hope. That would be February 6th, Mary Youngblood. We have another event coming up. It's the Chairs for Charity, and that's January 30th, and thanks to Madam Chair Marita Callaway, who will be one of the celebrity judges determining which 10 of some 35 to 40 entries will be in the live auction. Now, lastly, as a citizen of the greater Railroad Flat area, I strongly oppose the closing of Railroad Flat School. I know this isn't your jurisdiction, but the closing would mean a deep loss to the county you work hard to maintain. Dennis and I have Dennis Dickman, my husband, and I have two late 20-year-old kids who are the product of Railroad Flat School. And you take away the school, and you take away the community, and the children will suffer long bus rides and the lack of a nurturing faculty, which they need very much in Railroad Flat and Glencoe. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Penny, I'm assuming you're going to let the school district know your thoughts on that?
Oh, yes.
If you haven't.
We'll be
there on the Thursday meeting.
This Thursday, the CUSD trustees will be at Railroad Flat School, and we hope there are a lot of other people there to support the keeping open the school.
Yes, for those of you in the audience who aren't from Railroad or
staff or public wish to pull a consent agenda item? May I have a, oh, yes.
If you have a question about correspondence, is that a consent agenda item?
Yes, it is. Which one is it?
I'm interested in number 5 of December 28th.
Okay. Thank you. I'll take care of that one, Bonnie, after we approve the consent. May I have a motion?
So moved. Area, you're invited too. It matters all the way across the county, and in times like this, and if you are intending any random acts of kindness, should that subject come up later, that might be a first one you could do, is show up in support of the town of Railroad and its kids.
Thank you.
One other thing, Penny.
I'm going to put a timer on
I'm sorry.
you, Mr.
Okay,
Walensky.
go ahead.
No.
This will be quick. I just, now that you've found your doors, I'm wondering whether you could find the Sheep Ranch sheep.
They weren't together?
We don't know. Related?
Yeah, that was said.
Did you check Marita's credentials for this judge thing?
Morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Tyler Somerset, Calaveras Council of Governments, project manager for the Valley Springs Community Plan Update. I've got a short prepared statement here I'd like to read, just so I make sure I touch on everything. But be assured it's double spaced and it'll go by quick. As we begin a new year, I would like to take a moment to reflect on the year just concluded. As is well understood, the best thing Calaveras County has going for it are the folks that comprise this region. No place is this more evident than in northwestern Calaveras County. We have the citizens of this area to thank for securing $255,000 to accomplish a Herculean task, to plan for and enhance the Valley Springs area. The 6 square miles around Valley Springs proper, as mapped by the community in 1974, reflects a community area which has a history influenced by the railroad, as is evidenced by the train depot, which remains an iconic feature of the community. The tracks are long gone, and this unique community feature may not be preserved without planning for its preservation. Absent from the existing planning document are the subdivisions which have been built since its adoption and which depend on Valley Springs for essential goods and services, including school, post office, market, and entertainment. The neighborhoods of La Contenta, Quail Oaks, Gold Creek Estates, Rancho Calaveras, Motherlode Acres, and many others have grown up around Valley Springs, patronize its stores and shops, and yet remain unacknowledged in the 1974 planning document. From the outset of the community plan update, it's been considered critical to ask the residents of the nearby neighborhoods, do you consider yourself a resident of Valley Springs? To accomplish this, 5,900 questionnaires were direct mailed to Valley Springs proper and adjacent developments and neighborhoods to get an initial feel for how to define Valley Springs in 2009. And then, after receiving input from the community directly, move forward with the planning process. The results of the mailed questionnaire, in addition to questionnaires submitted on our Valley Springs Community Plan website, give us a general sense of what members of the community may be thinking. We had 1,000 questionnaires returned. 82% of the respondents, they consider themselves residents of Valley Springs. Less than 9% of the respondents lived in Valley Springs proper. The first workshops were held in late May and early June after a tremendous outreach effort by project partners. In addition to the 5,900 questionnaires mailed that promoted the community meetings, 3,000 flyers were printed and distributed in the community, including over 1,200 flyers handed out to Valley Springs and Jenny Lind Elementary School children. We walked door to door in Valley Springs proper, put up road signs, distributed hundreds of flyers to area businesses, churches and clubhouses, sent press releases and email notices, outreach to community groups, ran a public service announcement on community TV, and host a Valley Springs Community Plan webpage. Media coverage was good. Over 20 articles, advertisements, and announcements were published in local newspapers about the upcoming May-June community workshops. In August 27th, we had a workshop that covered 3 topics: future growth projections, what being in a community plan means, and preferred boundary alternatives. Again, project partner outreach was high. 700 postcards were mailed directly to participants who had identified themselves as wanting to be kept informed. 2,700 flyers distributed throughout the community, and media coverage was good. Turnout for the meeting was excellent. 180 people signed in that night. By the end of the evening, attendees had viewed maps and chosen their community area boundary alternative. The reason we plan is to protect and enhance the human and natural environment and provide a viable future for our children and their children. Just a few of the benefits of community planning for northwestern Calaveras could include defining areas and boundaries of growth, which can protect and preserve open space, working landscapes, green belts, and view corridors, reduction of fire hazards, preservation of the rural character and history of the community, protecting the commercial viability of the community.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passes on a 401. Supervisor Tryon will not be with us today. Bonnie, would you like to come up, please, and address the board?
Well, Bonnie Newman from Double Springs. I just had a question. I believe Terry Baker is our Mr. Rooster.
Correct.
And I'm just wondering what he's talking about boxing, because I imagine it has something to do with his issue. So
In promoting economic development, keeping development out of floodplains and wetlands, and balancing job growth with new housing. It is our hope that a hardy, dare I say robust, Community discussion will continue to take place regarding the future of Valley Springs, one that is open, broad, and sincere enough to include as many of the constituents of the area that wish to be heard on the topic, and one that allows folks to speak honestly and for themselves, and ultimately a process that will be respected by all. Thank you. We've also prepared for you binders here which have the community survey and the results, all of the public outreach that was done to the process to date, and a narrative of the process. And so again, this is just a progress report for 2009 for each of us.
Tyler, I have a couple questions.
Yeah.
You had planned for some meetings this month, a series of charrettes.
Correct.
Those were canceled?
Yes.
Is there a date that's been chosen, I assume in February?
We have some tentative dates. We do have Valley Springs Elementary tentatively reserved for the 23rd, the 25th, and the 27th for those January meetings that were postponed.
And the purpose of 3 meetings are?
The first will be a visioning session to bring everyone together and to create a vision statement, which is something that we started in the beginning of the process, but then we never formalized the actual statement. And then on the 25th, which is a Thursday night, we'll see the actual proposed draft boundaries, land use designations, and circulation plan. And then Saturday the 27th would be an open house for folks to come in and drop by, ask questions, make comment.
So you say proposed draft boundaries. Those boundaries still have people, I know there's some opposition out there to some of the boundaries. Is there these dates in February, is that an opportunity for these people to present their case or their side on not wanting the boundaries as what they're going to be drafted as?
Certainly, the impacts of a land use designation change are important considerations in any community plan update. And so, yes, we would welcome property owners' input. And again, we have outreach to many of those folks directly. And so we do have letters from many of them regarding their desire for their property.
And then one other question about, we're on the 12th today. You're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
He gave us a letter with information on his being a boxing champ. A copy of that is with the board. There was no action to be taken by the board. If you would like to see it, the clerk has a copy.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Did you want to say something? All right.
So I'll move the balance of the consent agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passes on a 401. Thank you. We will stand in recess till 9:10.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I'd like to reconvene the meeting, please. We're now at public comment. If anyone has any item they'd like to discuss that is not an agendized item, please come up, state your name and your mission.
Good morning. I'm Karen Pekarsik. I'm the director for First 5 Calaveras, which is our state cigarette tax funded program for grants to the community serving children birth to 5 and their families and the professionals who work with them. Why don't you introduce yourselves before we get going?
Okay, I'm Robin Davis, and I'm the Children's Services Coordinator for First 5. Dorothy Smith, Nutrition Family Advisor with UC Cooperative Extension and current chair of the commission.
I'm Shannon Crawford, and I'm a commissioner at First 5. Joyce Peak, School Readiness.
And then we also have Supervisor Walensky, who is a board or a chair.
Who would be with you if you were here?
Did you want to go stand up?
Yeah, do you want to go stand up?
I would be proud to go stand up.
Go stand up there.
I will.
We are here on a mission
We still have
today.
a quorum.
All of our commissioners are appointed by the Board of Supervisors, and we have had the great fortune over the last 8 years to have Jeannie Boyce serve as a...
6 weeks away, approximately 6 weeks away. What's the plan for advertising or getting the word out for these so you don't have, I wasn't told?
Sure. We do have a large number of folks, about 700, who have kind of self-identified themselves as wanting to be kept informed as part of the process. So we'll do a direct mailing to those folks. A lot of folks have given us their email addresses. We'll do that. There'll be articles in the paper, public service announcements. We'll do essentially our same media campaign and community outreach that we did for our May and June workshops, which include, meeting with or giving flyers to business owners and doing as best we can to reach all the folks using different methods. The banners that we put up along Highways 12 and 26, meeting with community groups.
Was there any notification posted in any of the post office, local post offices?
I believe there was in the post office. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler. Just a sidebar. How's Mr. McSorley doing?
He's doing very well. We talked to him this morning, and he's his same rambunctious self, and he can't wait to get back to us on the 25th.
Okay, thank you.
Tyler, before you go away, all of the pushback that Tyler's group is experiencing coming from Rancho Calaveras residents, I think is the way I could define it is just being a lack of understanding about the impact of this plan on Rancho specifically. I spoke at length with Tyler the other day, encouraging him to sort of pull back a little bit and focus more on the visioning, developing the vision, and have a buy-in from Rancho residents and Valley Springs residents within the current plan about what the ultimate outcome of this community plan should be. What does Valley Springs want to be when it grows up? I think that it's important that you attempt to get to some language in the vision statement that states emphatically that there is no intent in the plan to change any of the land use designations in some of the unique rural subdivisions that currently exist. I think that would go a long ways to calming the waters, so to speak. You recall I was emphasizing how important that was. I think that this kind of taking one step back and accomplishing that will allow you to go forward. The other thing that I'd like for anybody from Rancho that is here presently today or listening or viewing on the TV, that the experience that I've had in doing these community plans is that the boundaries of the plan can change right up to the last day. It can be expanded or contracted. The committee can do that, or the participants can do that right up to the last day before submitting it to the Board of Supervisors. So anyway, the other thing on this outreach, Supervisor Toffanelli, keeps inquiring, and we all wonder with this tremendous outreach, why do people still say, I didn't know that there was going to be a meeting? Now, going back several years ago, we had some controversy here in these chambers where I was using, for about 3 occasions, I used our reverse 911 system very effectively for some meetings in the Copperopolis area. So effective, as a matter of fact, that I would pack a room and say, okay, show me by a show of hands how many people arrived here because you saw it in the paper, and a few hands would go up. How many people arrived here because of the announcement you got on Tuesday afternoon at 2 o'clock on your recorded, on your phone? And overwhelmingly, the hands went up. Now, I'm still not sure in my mind why, with this the availability of this system that we can't use it, but I would submit to you that there are a lot of people who can. You could contact 6,000 households for about $200, and I would really strongly encourage you to look at that. If you don't have the contact point, that can be supplied to you about how to get that accomplished. All you need is a voter registration disc. So.
Thank you. Supervisor Tofinelli has also mentioned that we've actually found a firm that does that, kind of phone blast for you, and that's part of our outreach for this.
Okay, but I want to impress upon you that you will not make any friends by making that call at dinner time. Do it at 2 o'clock in the afternoon so that people are not home and they get the message when they get home. So.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr.
Tyler.
Somerset. Does anyone else? Thank you. 5 minutes, please.
It'll be less than 5 minutes.
Good.
My name is Les Martin, live in Valley Springs, and just listen to Tyler talking. I live full-time now in Valley Springs. I started coming up to Calaveras County in 1972 or 73. I have a cabin up in Camp Connell, and we always like to see Valley Springs in the rearview mirror, going up and coming back. Now I ended up living here. I think this $255,000 is being frittered away because Valley Springs missed the boat many, many, many years ago by not becoming a hub. So consequently, people are going to Martell, Jackson, Escalon, shopping everywhere else. We talk about the market and this, that, and the other thing. How many stores are just, they're open one day, close the next? We got the hardware store that's just barely staying open. And why is it barely staying open? Because we're not shopping here in Valley Springs. We're shopping in Amador County or Stockton. So I hate to say it. I think it was not fair back in that September meeting when we had EDA or whoever it was. They were passing out clickers. I didn't even take one. I went, what the heck is this? I didn't want to squeak like a mouse or something like that, punching the things. When that was finished, I think it was just a big sham. It was a waste of money. Valley Springs, this whole plan is fraught with, it's just not going to get there. The place, when the tracks were pulled up, that was the end of the show for Valley Springs. So that's just my personal opinion. I'm very happy living there. We have a lot of people that I have in the Rancho area that we have weekly meetings. They're only up on the weekends. They never hear a word about this stuff. And if it comes in the mail, it's post facto. So if there was some way to put this thing on a ballot or a vote to where those people that are not registered in Calaveras County but have homes and are looking forward to that day that they move into that place, that they could have some speech, some voice in what's happening going on here, because these folks that are only up here on the weekends, they're just going, we're being buffaloed by a bunch of, a few people, this group that you keep catering to. So I'm just going to close and say, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I don't think Valley Springs is ever going to become a super wonderful hub. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Does anyone else have something they'd like to address?
Karen Pekarsik, and now I'm speaking as a citizen of Calaveras County and a resident in Valley Springs, which is my mailing address, and Rancho, Calaveras, which is the subdivision in which I live. I had the opportunity to be part of the development of the grant that brought this process to the community, and my role was strictly functional. I helped with the physical preparation, but I watched the collaboration and the diversity of people in the room who were working very hard to bring this opportunity to do some planning and visioning. And frankly, as a resident, I was really impressed at the effort that was put out to try to connect with people. I mean, Tyler's listed every possible way of connecting with people that you could think of. One of the challenges living in our community is it doesn't have a real community sense. And a lot of people have opinions of why that is, but we've found the same problems with in jobs I've worked with in the county. One of the most difficult things is to engage people and get them to the table beforehand rather than having them perceive that things are being done to them. So my heart goes out to Tyler and COG, and I've participated in as many of those as I could, barring schedule issues, but I've learned an awful lot, and frankly, I think it's a good process, and I think it's really meaningful, and I think the decisions that are made about the Greater Valley Springs area, by definition, the downtown area, they're going to have a huge impact on Rancho when Rancho builds out. I don't see it changing the Rancho subdivision, so my concerns are personally not for my home area as a subdivision, but I see the traffic impacts when Rancho builds out. They're not even halfway built out. When we add half again as many homes and cars, potentially, as that area builds out, and we have to deal with the water issues of where we place businesses in the Greater Valley Springs area, those are the things I've learned from participating in this meeting. So that's my perspective. I'm not as loud as some of the people in my community, but I'm not against this process, and I encourage everybody to participate.
But
Thank
you
you.
speak softly and carry a big stick. Is there anyone else who'd like to address the board? Bonnie, go ahead.
Well, I have two issues. Mine's very short. Last week we saw Supervisor Thomas pass the gavel, and as a private citizen, I wanted to thank Supervisor Thomas for chairing the board this past year. It's pretty scary sometimes to stand up here and talk in front of you all, and with God over there in the corner watching, and every time I open my mouth, I know my foot's going to come in every other word, but you made it real comfortable to come and talk, and I felt encouraged enough to come back and continue making a fool out of myself, so thank you for your year's participation. And then last year, we saw Jeannie step in as our first female CAO, and I made a big to-do about it. Whoopee! And I heard somebody say, "Oh, that's sexist." And that didn't come from the peanut gallery, that came from someone up there, and I wanted to talk about it being sexist because it's been 160 years since we've had a woman in this position as the advisor to the board, and to have a female chairperson and a female CAO gives me a lot of hope. Now, I said this during the 80s because I thought 80s was the decade of the woman, and you know what happened to the ERA. So I don't want to jinx anything, but I see a real turn, and how many times have I thought, gee, why can't they take the advice of a woman? So now if Jeannie's given a little bit of advice and Marita's interpreting it, I've got a lot of hope. And I think 210 might be a big change. And also, I want to thank you guys for doing what you do, because I don't know if you knew this, but I ran for the Board of Supervisors back in the 80s, and I didn't win, but I thought I could do just as good a job as some of these yahoos, and so I threw my hat in the ring, and I came out very low on the totem pole, but it gave me an opportunity to speak what I wanted to speak when both judges were running, and all the other board members got to hear my platform, which was domestic violence and sexual assault. Nobody wanted to hear it, but it promoted a cause. We've got a wonderful shelter and a women's program intact in the county, so thank you all for what you do, and keep letting us feel that we have the opportunity to come and burn your ears. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Miller.
Bonnie, thank you very much for the card. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for serving.
Hello, stranger.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Lakshmi Grewal, Air Pollution Control Officer on administrative leave. This morning, I'm here to share with the board that Lakshmi is still alive and kicking. This Thursday, I'm going before a state disability doctor for a fitness to duty test. So two things can happen. He might sign me on saying I am fit and alive to do my duty, but in that case, I'll be coming before the board again requesting to waive 2-week requirements or a 2 weeks notice for going into my retirement. If that can be done, then I would be happy to retire instead of coming back to work. In case something is wrong documented with me, I'll be going on the state disability again, and in future I'll be coming before the board to share the wisdom your board has given me in the past 15 plus years. I've been happy to work for the county. I think I have contributed little, but most of the people in the county, citizens in the county, staff members have been happy with whatever I was doing, and I try to implement the law to the best of my ability. So if it's okay with the board, this Friday, if the doctor finds me okay, I'll be submitting my resignation.
Mr. Graywall, so as I understand it, given A, you will not be here any longer. Given B, you will not be here any longer.
That's correct, Madam Chair.
Okay. On waiving the 2 weeks, I'm sure you could work with our CAO and she'll do what is in your best interest, in the county's best interest. I don't think that will be an issue. I guess I'm surprised.
Thank you.
Because this has come before us before.
In either case, I will be here to talk to the board as a public member, to share my wisdom, to address the board about some legalities and safety issues in the county, and that will be my contribution for all those years the board has given me here.
Well, you've been an excellent air pollution control officer. I think all of us have liked working with you as well as the public.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board.
You're very user-friendly.
Thank you.
And more important, we hope you're doing well physically.
I hope so too.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Good to see you, Locklear.
Is there anyone else? I'm going to close the public.
I have a serious issue. Bonnie Newman, Double Springs. Now, I've been giving you all a break by pulling Steve Olinsky away once in a while and flogging him and making him the creator of the monster that I call the public authority. I've been trying to get as much information as I can about this program, trying to find out where it's failed, what the big gap is, why we don't have the services and the response that I think we could have, and I'm hitting a lot of block walls. I'm talking about in-home health support services. There is an agency that oversees us that for the past 7 years has been collecting about $500,000 a year for the county, from the state, to run an IHSS public authority. $500,000 a year for 7 years. We have 260 healthcare workers in our county, and after 7 years, only 30 of them are on the registry. That means 230 other healthcare providers are going to have to do what the public authority could have been doing for the past 7 years, getting fingerprints, getting background checks. I'm trying to get information about the IHSS Advisory Board, and I'm getting a little runaround. I know I came last week, and it was suggested I go to the Board of Supervisors and find out the list. Well, there is no list at the Board of Supervisors. They recommended I go to County Council for the Public Information Act. So I went to County Council. They didn't have anything readily available. They sent me back to the public authority.
Ms. Miller, you bring this up a lot. What I am
Yes.
recommending is that the director of CalWorks and the CAO meet with you and get your issues down and give you a written response, if that's what your concerns. So in your best interest and your concerns and your constituents, that these same issues don't keep coming up. So I will have the CAO give you a call and set up a meeting.
That would be great. And last
Okay.
week, we also talked about the advisory board, how maybe there would be...
She will take care of all those issues for you, that, the funding, where it goes, and everything you have. And,
Okay, that'd be great.
and deal with those issues so we're not piecemealing them out during the year.
Okay. Doesn't mean I won't have nothing to say about it, but I appreciate that.
But that's
Thanks,
fine. I
Julie.
think we
Okay.
need to put a ribbon around all the concerns that you keep bringing up, and Ms. Boyce
Maybe do something.
will get hold of you and set that up.
Great. Okay, thank you, Marita. Thanks, Jeannie.
Thank you, Bonnie. I do expect you to, sit on our shoulder occasionally, but I would like to get some of these concerns answered. Is there anyone else who has an issue not on the agenda? Thank you. I'd like to move to the next item, which is very exciting. It's the Random Acts of Kindness Zone, and I equate it with a man named Jim Bergantz. And I guess I would like Mr. Bergantz to come forward.
I have a gift for you, Supervisors.
Oh, no.
Brought it on my team.
Is that supposed to go on the front door? Or?
Here's some of our hopes, and I'm going to try to be real brief here, but our hope is that you would maybe have this and put it on the wall back there, since it would help to remind everyone that to be kind
to us.
Which is evidence that you are very kind.
Jim, could you please identify yourself for the record?
I'm Jim Bergantz. I'm a lifelong resident of Calaveras County, Angels Camp, then Murphy's, and proud father of two lovely daughters, and excited to be here with my Kindness Crusaders. I'm a Kindness Crusader, and I'm really excited because we're going to do some really cool things here in our county. And thank you, Marita. So, anyhow, I brought my sign, which is for you. So I will just make this presentation right now. I'm going to take a picture. Okay. Yeah. Oh, by the way, here's all my guys. This is Roger Wold. This is Billy Westernoff and Paul. And these are really the core of the Kindness Crusaders. And we have more than this that attend our meetings, and we have a huge email list that are big fans of what we're doing. So we're just kind of making some things happen. I have to say that Tyler is going to be on our team soon once he gets an email from us. So anyhow. Okay. What I have for the supervisors is kindness ribbons. Even though Kindness Week doesn't start till the 15th, we definitely need some Kindness Crusaders, and we're working on kindness kits for all the county schools. And guess what? We decided to make a kit available to each one of you to take back to your constituents and find the Crusader in your base. So anyhow, here's a little press release and stuff. There are ribbons for each of you that are out there to wear. And I want to keep it short and to the point. And we're counting on the media to help tell our story. So Jan Hovey is on our team, and she is sending a press release out as we speak. And we have copies. Billy has copies for any of the press here who would like a press release and a kindness fact sheet. But the whole thing is what can we do individually to make a difference in our world? And I want to tell you about this story about this guy who has decided to do 1 million acts of kindness in his lifetime. Now, for me, just one act of kindness is a good start, maybe another. And the ribbon, of course, is to be used as a way to reach out and share the words of kindness. Our good friend Dale Huey came up with the logo, which I think is just stellar, because our whole idea is to create ripples of kindness by having one kind person do one kind thing for another. And the ribbon, you sign your name on the ribbon and then you pin it on the next person. So when you guys are up there having a meeting and one of you is kind to the other one, take your ribbon off and pin it on the next supervisor. Just an idea. Anyhow, I think this communicates really, really good. But this guy named Bob, who's on 1millionactsofkindness.com, he has decided, he quit his job and he's decided to go out into the world. And I just want to read to you a little bit about what Bob and his dog Bogart are trying to do. They're trying to create a kindness generation. his act, 1 million acts of kindness, is his goal. He says, a father of 3 college-age kids, I'm concerned for the world in which all kids live. A great way to create a safer, more caring world for everyone is to start a lifetime goal of 1 million acts of kindness. So Bob, sold his house, bought a bus, had 60 family members, friends, neighbors, helped paint the bus, and he began a 10-year journey just recently with his Boston Terrier, Bogart.
But for people or person to be firing shots randomly at passersby in houses is the kind of thing that shakes this community to its core. Some people may see this resolution as frivolity, but the truth of the matter is that the best countermeasure, the best weapon you can use against random acts of cruelty, indifference, and violence is to create a culture that actually cares. The thing that's a core to the values of the communities, regardless of your politics, your station in life, what you do for a living, where you live, is that we have for really the better part of a century and a half had communities that care for one another. And to actually have to think about it is a sorry commentary on how devolved we've become. But in the face of this last couple of weeks, there is no more important thing we can do than to sow a sense of caring for one another in the face of these incidents. So I make this motion with enthusiasm and with the sense that this doesn't have to be window dressing. It can become, once again, a reestablishment of the culture that defines this place.
Very well said, Steve. Is there a second?
I will second the motion.
All in favor? Oh, whoop, wait a minute. I forgot. Is there any public comment on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes on a 4-0. Jim, thank you so very much for bringing this back to Calaveras.
And thank you for doing what you do every week, every day. And thanks for being a part of it. We're going to bring you some stuff and see where it goes. It's in the hearts. And, living in Calaveras County is an awesome place to live. There's no question about it. I'm really grateful. So,
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Regan.
I'd like to move to item 8. We can take these all at once.
A couple of them have more applicants.
I did talk to Supervisor Tryon, and on his Parks and Rec, which is where he had 2 applicants and 1 opening, he is going to reappoint Mason Goodell. So I'm asking the supervisors, are there any, other than that, he's fine. He's also, it's all right for Elizabeth Howard to be on District 4 Commission on Aging. Russ, do you have any that are, you want to make any changes to?
I do. If we could, I don't know whether you want to take them up in sequence that they're listed, or?
Actually, I was hoping what we might do is take the ones that have no controversy and no, or only 1 applicant, that we pass those separately, and that we take those that need further discussion and choices and move that out from the
Well, I think Commission on Aging is fine. I think Area 12 is fine. Air Pollution Control District Hearing Board is fine. Agricultural Dispute Resolution Committee, Comanche Regional Park Advisory Board, Children, Family, and Commission. I think CSA 1 is one that needs to be not involved in this.
We can pull that out.
We can pull that out.
There's
Domestic Animal Advisory Committee, I think we're all okay with that. Fish and Game, I'm fine on what's written there. I'm not sure.
Actually, I have something on Fish and Game, which is that there are 2 positions with only 1 filled from District 2. We have a District 2 person, Mary Ann Garamendi, who is an alternate, And it seems to me, with her consent, that I would like to...
She didn't want it.
She said no to that?
That's, we asked her at the last Fish and Game Commission.
She was undecided when I talked to her. But let me suggest that the District 2 supervisor encourage her to move from that position to the full position.
Well,
She
why don't-
attends anyway, so...
Why don't we leave it as it is, and if she,
And move
you
it
can,
from there.
if you could arm twist
Bring it
her,
back and
that,
reappoint.
we
All
don't
right.
even need to bring
Okay,
it
so we'll
back.
pass it as it is, and that can be
and
done
then-
ministerially.
And you
with
can,
the-
correct.
All right.
So unless there's any specific except for CSA 1, District 4 Parks and Rec already made his decision. So
I think CSA number 1 is basically...
is the only one.
Okay, I'll move
Russ,
one.
do you have any that you want to change with the exclusion of
No.
CSA 1?
No.
Then I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, passes on a 401. We'll move to the CSA 1.
All right. Should we pass these down? Okay.
Pass those down, please. That's my random act of kindness.
Yeah.
So give me your ribbon. Take mine.
You don't have to do more than that, Finale.
Okay, fellow supervisors, this map here is the representation of the CSA 1 Rancho Calaveras roads, of which there are 50 miles of roads and 6,000 acres. And you see, if you look closely over on the left-hand margin, this is my recommendation for terms that would end at the end of this year. We have a new applicant, Michael Surratt. We have Martin Davis and Shelley Prater. Shelley Prater is an existing and continuing member of this committee. If you look closely within the boundary of the CSA 1, you'll see that I've got some dots on there that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are the specific locations of the members of the, you see that adjacent to Michael Surratt's name, there's a Zone 1. What I've done is broken down the whole CSA area in zones 1 through 5, and then assigned according to the location where these people live, that would be their area of responsibility. I'm in the process of trying to figure out how to best govern this CSA, looking over the historical documents. When it was originally set up back in 1994, it was set up as a 5-member committee. If you can kind of get your mind around the fact that this is a 6,000-acre piece of property, my strong suggestion, and I'll put this as a request, I've spoken with our county council about what would be required to change the resolution to make it a 7-member committee. If you think about the mathematics of this, with a 5-member committee, each one would be responsible for 10 miles of roads. And depending on the terrain and the topography of the area that they live in, Madeline's a former member of this committee. Can you go this way or this way? About is 10 miles manageable, or would it be better to have seven members and spread it around? Yeah. Okay. So what I'm requesting this morning is the affirmation of these suggested terms ending in 2010, and then for terms ending 2012, you see them listed there. But then as soon as possible, I would like to bring back the resolution to the board to change it to have 7 members. 2 reasons or 2 justifications in my mind is that it's almost unmanageable the way that it is, and we have the benefit of having some fabulously talented people that have applied for this committee, and I don't want to have to say no to somebody who is as qualified as some of these people are. So like to be able to communicate to them.
Is there, the second part that Russ brought up, is there support for him to bring a resolution back to the board, making the changes to the CSA?
I'd support anything that made that area more governable or more
Gary?
get along.
I would support it. That's
Okay,
what the
fine.
supervisor.
Let's just work with Jeannie on when you can schedule that in county
Okay.
council.
Jim,
This is
did you
well
wanna-
organized.
Did you want to make any comment on the methodology for doing this? I mean, you mentioned that it might be a good opportunity to look closely at the resolution to see if there's other language.
Right. We a couple of things. We tried a year ago to make this process uniform, so we want to look at that, make sure that the terms, the idea being the terms all end in January, so the board only has to do this once a year. 7-member board, you would have to, it's going to require a little more scheduling because you have to have a 4-person quorum. They're a Brown Act body, so they would have to have 4-person quorum, but certainly there's no objection to having a 7-person group, and I would suggest we take a look at the resolution and see if there's anything else that should be revised.
Okay, I spoke with Public Works about this, that they are in favor of enlarging the group. Prior to that suggestion, we'd already discussed the fact that we would have an in-service day with the entire group, where hopefully County Council would come and give some Brown Act training and some ethics training for this group, and the enthusiasm. Did you have a chance to read any of the qualifications of these people? I mean, I had to unfortunately had to bypass an electrical engineer that designs stuff for space satellites and that wants to work for this county or wants to work for his community. So it'll give me a chance to augment the committee, make it more functional.
Do they want to go from 5 to 6 to 7 or 5 to 7?
I spoke with Shelley Prater about this idea. She's the one of the 2 people that will be continuing, and she thought it was a good idea because it on balance, and you've heard from a prior member of the committee that it just is a kind of a daunting task when you take on 10 miles of road to come up with your recommendations for fixing the roads. And it's do you realize that there's $1,200,000 that's been accumulating in this fund, and we need to spend it wisely, and so I think that I'm excited about the potential for having this thing work more efficiently and to the benefit of the citizens of Rancho Calaveras.
Okay, is there anything else on this then, Russ?
Just a small aside that given some of the otherworldly comments we've been getting on the process issues down there, it now comes clear that the satellite and interplanetary travel potential of the area is greater than we might have thought.
Was that a slam?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
But that's just in payment for some comments about West Point several years ago.
What?
Yeah. Random acts of
Random
violation.
violation.
Okay, then, Madam Chairman.
Turn your ribbon around and put it backwards.
With that explanation, I would move move that we approve these members as presented for the terms represented.
I'll second.
Any further comments? Any comments from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes on a 401. Thank you. I'd like to move to item 8, reviews of correspondence. Russ, since you started, you want to continue?
The only thing that I have on my schedule for this week is I intend to drive to Sacramento tomorrow night for the RCRC installation, and that concludes my report for this week.
Mr. Toffenelli.
I have nothing to report, Madam Chair.
Mr. Walensky.
I'll be meeting with the Mental Health Job Club tomorrow, CHIPS board meeting tomorrow, and the very important meeting in Railroad Flat of the school board that will be attending at Railroad Flat Elementary in the cafeteria. That would be Thursday.
At what time, Steve?
That's at 5:30. Actually, the meeting will commence at 6, but there will be preliminary gathering of the community at 5:30.
Cocktails and hors d'oeuvres, is that?
Not likely.
Supervisor Tryon will also be at RCRC this week. I have 3 items I'd like to ask the board about, if I have your support. One, I'd like to write a letter on behalf of the board on Monty Wolf's cabin, and writing a letter to the El Dorado National Forest with a copy to Lundgren and a whole host of others, including Alpine County Board of Supervisors, Amador Board, and some other CCs. In essence, supporting the fact that Monty Wolf's cabin should be allowed to exist. It needs to go back to the state it was in before it was legally vandalized. Of course, that's open for discussion on whether it is, but if I have your support, I'll write a letter and put it on the agenda for the 26th.
You have my support. You have my support to make the trek with Ralph up there.
Yeah, I know. Russ, is it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You have my support as well.
Also, on AB 811, that's the program where cities or counties, in some fashion, however to be determined, will be front money for energy conservation programs for property owners, be they residential, commercial, or industrial. I would like to have a study session on this. We really have a concern here in Calaveras in that we don't have economy of scale, so we might have, we have to maybe work with adjoining counties or join a cooperative which is being formed. But I would, if you all are interested in it, I would like to agendize this as a study session in February, but I'd like your support on that before I ask staff to help on this item.
I'd like to see that happen.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. And then one more. And I just happened to think about it. I think it was in today's or yesterday's record. Dana, you might help me on the Randon gases. Radon. What did I say? Random. Yeah, well, they could be random too. It was, I have to say, it was sort of like, should we be afraid or should we not be afraid? And Brian Moss was quoted as saying, we have kits here in the county.
For free.
For free, and I'm anticipating there might be a little rush on that. Jeannie, I'm not sure if we should be doing like a press release, because it showed Calaveras.
You did.
As having a problem. Now, what does a problem mean? I don't think we know, because it said you have to be around it for long periods of time, and it talked about how you do the test, and I just thought it was something that would make people concerned, and we just hit it before, and we prepared for it, that's all.
Yeah. I think the kits have already arrived by the State Department of Public Health to Environmental Health, and Brian Moss did issue a press release. My understanding is I think that they've given all the kits out, but I will coordinate with Brian and see where he's at.
Because I'm sure that article...
All the kits are gone?
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Because I'm sure that article is going to raise some concern.
Yes. I'll coordinate with Brian.
Okay, thank you.
I have an agenda.
Yeah. Do you want me to finish? You want to go?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Doesn't matter.
Your chair. Take my hand.
Take control. I'm going to take that cell phone.
I know, I'm going away.
I have a Ebbets Pass Scenic Byway strategic session late this afternoon, this evening. I will be at an AAUW meeting on Thursday where the Calaveras Humane Society will be talking.
You won't be being mentored by Tom at any time?
This week? No, he is out of town, thank you. And the 19th, since we are not meeting, I will be, if I can work it, I will be going to the Alpine Board of Supervisors meeting. They are voting on the Bear Valley project, and Tom Garcia was going on behalf of the county because I thought we were meeting, and since since we don't have a meeting, I'll probably go too. On the 20th, I will be at the state in Sacramento for the water plan. And Steve, we might as well talk about next week's schedule, supervisors, because Steve and I have child support meeting on the 21st.
Next week's meeting, did we not
Cancel.
cancel it?
We cancel.
Yes, so we're talking our schedule all the way
If
through.
you have some scheduling things, Russ, do you have anything you want to address for next week?
No, not at this time.
Gary, Steve?
At 9:30 on the 20th, the Amador-Calaveras Consensus meeting will take place in Amador County. The Sierra Nevada Conservancy will have a regional meeting in Sonora on the 20th in the afternoon. I have the aforementioned JPA Family Support meeting on Thursday. And that's it.
Okay, thank you.
I do have one agenda
Oh, yes,
item.
thank you.
Roberts.
We received a letter from Alan Roberts, who had held a hearing at a time when there were only 4 of us here, and Russ was lobbying, hopefully successfully for us in Washington. He had been told that he could, when we were a full 5, come back and have an opportunity to make his case before a board that was not deadlocked. And since he lives a long ways away, he has requested that we agendize that, if it is our wish, on the 9th of February. He comes from Washington. So I'm hoping that we might be able to accommodate that on our February 9th agenda. He did write a letter that appears to have confused the positions taken by Supervisor Toffanelli and myself. So whatever slams have developed my way were purely accidental on his part, he tells me. But this is the letter that requests the...
I was reaping accolades, and now
I know.
May I comment?
Fall into the depths.
Yes.
Board members, Jim?
I spoke with Mr. Roberts. In fact, I asked him to, or suggested that he write this letter. And I've done quite a bit of legal research on this issue. It's not clear. In most instances, when this board takes action, it's final, and the next step would be a court challenge. That could be the case here, although I think there is, surprisingly, there's not a clear-cut legal answers to this. So he had his due process. He had the hearing that he's entitled to with this board, with a quorum, and so you've satisfied what he's entitled to under the Revenue and Tax Code. However, I think that if you want to accept his request to come back and present his case or his claim to a full board, that's within your discretion.
Do you remember this guy?
I do, and I, of course, was gone, but I reviewed the minutes of the meeting, and maybe you can explain it to me. David Sirius apparently made this statement during that hearing that the gentleman had no standing, yet he's the guy that wrote the check, and I just have a hard time sorting out in my mind that he wouldn't have standing in this particular issue. And had I been here, I would have been just taking that fact on the surface without any background, any further background information. I would have had a hard time swallowing that statement. So, did he have standing? Or
I purposely have stayed out of the merits of the claim.
That was part of the question before us that we deadlocked.
Yeah, I've stated out the merits of the claim. Because of the reason, because of my office representing, basically involved in both representing the board and the assessor's office. So,
Well, as long as the gentleman understands that he very well may get exactly the same outcome as before, you know, his wishes wouldn't. There's a possibility his wishes wouldn't be granted. I'm sorry that I wasn't here, because it would have been a conclusive vote one way or the other. I am not opposed to hearing it again. I just defer to my
I
colleagues.
guess I will ask the board, what is the pleasure of the board on hearing it again?
Well, I don't think my stance is going to change, hearing it again or not. So.
Steve?
I don't know whether mine will change or not, depending on what comes up, but I do think that he deserves a true decision rather than a deadlock, and I would hope we could afford him that. He's willing to travel from Washington to make the case, knowing that it could fail. But I think it's better than the alternative, which would be for him to take this into a more expensive process.
Okay, so we've got 2 and Marita.
2-2. I mean, I'm really, we were a board, we were a quorum. And it would just mean that every time we have a 2-2, that people can come back for a rehearing. Now, that's where I wanted to go. But I guess I will support it based on Steve's comment. We don't want him nor the county to incur any costs. I mean, I think it was under $2,000, Jim? $1,500.
I think it's about a $1,500 claim.
$1,500. I mean, is he really going to go to court for $1,500? I mean, and if that's
It would be small claims.
The hearing that you give him is just procedural. It's a step that's required before he can go to court, and you've done that.
I know we have.
And if he prevails, if you give him another hearing and he prevails, or he doesn't prevail, he still has the option of going to court.
Well, since it's random acts of kindness, then I will support doing it.
Good for you.
So we will
Against my better judgment.
I'm going to give my thing to you. That was an act of kindness.
Okay.
So February 9th.
So
that's when he's
when
coming.
it could be
That's the day.
scheduled.
That's the only day he could be done.
It would be helpful to check with the assessor's office to make sure
Yeah.
that if they can be here as well. I think the assessor only just recently got notice of this request, so I'm sure on their behalf I'd ask that you let me work out a date that works for both them and Mr. Roberts.
I think the board needs to be cognizant of that when we say we need something right away, that we're really impacting staff, and give it to the CAO and let the CAO and council work on when it's best scheduled, unless it's real critical. Okay, Jean, I'm sorry, Russ.
Well, before we go on, I just want to make an editorial comment that wouldn't it be peculiar if we deadlocked on giving the guy another bite of the apple? So
I hope you're all here on the date that this comes back.
When was that, the 9th?
You never know, we'll find out.
Bermuda at that time, I think.
Okay, CAO.
Yes, I handed out to you a draft of some study session dates for January and February. I want to obtain the board's direction with regards to going forward with scheduling those. January 26th, Public Works, overall work plan update. February 2nd, general plan update. February 9th, the new jail and sheriff administration project. And February 23rd, our mid-year financial report for the current fiscal year, as well as talking about the budget schedule for 10-11 and obtaining some board direction. And then, Marita, you just mentioned AB 811, so perhaps...
Yes, I would like to do that. I mean, we could do 2 study sessions in a day. It depends on what our schedule What you see is the agenda. I'm asking you, you can set the date.
Okay, we'll look at the schedule, and
how
at this point,
long?
I'm looking at maybe February the 16th.
We could do February 16th, or if the 23rd, or the...
Okay.
Or, I mean, if it doesn't...
If we can't, we'll
I'll
find a
leave
place.
that to you to
Okay.
schedule it. Scheduled, if possible, in February.
Okay.
Thank you. Anything else?
Yes, Madam Chairman, I wanted to remind the board that there is what I think has the potential for being an important meeting of the MSOC committee on January 21st at 6 p.m.
MSOC.
Oh, it's the Emergency Medical Services, the Calaveras County Emergency Medical Services Oversight Committee.
Got it.
Okay, the contract for our ambulance service within the county is coming up for review. There has been a request by the American Legion to extend their coverage on this contract for another 5-year period. And this is a meeting that is, the purpose of the meeting is to overview of the terms.
Response times and how it has returned us to the very result that we were trying to get ourselves out of. If the policy of this board is as we stated, which was to have a fair and reasonable, although it's clear that population centers have higher call volumes and are more efficient in terms of the cost and of response, that there was a desire to be more equitable in the distribution of emergency services. That was the policy goal. We set up 2 different models in this county to meet that policy goal. One was the arrangement that was set up on the Ebbets Pass corridor, which appears to have met its policy goals. Distribution is pretty good, the responses have been effective, and there's general satisfaction with the service. In the 2 other...
And they have a special tax to pay for that.
And they have a special tax to pay for
it,
which gets you to the real question, which is, what level of service do we desire? Yeah. And what kind of resources can we put into it? Now, there are 2 kinds of resources available to us, and yet those do not appear to be working necessarily very effectively with one another. We have volunteer and quasi-paid fire departments, which may be ready to step up into a model that could be similar to the Ebbets Pass, but with a partnership. We may wish to put into our new contracts for American Legion or any other bidder to come up with. But these are discussions that I think need to come back to the board for an overall policy. What is our policy goal, and what kind of resources do we think can be deployed toward meeting that end is something that's overdue for discussion, and I know it's been building up in some places with a great deal of concern. Finally, if we have hitched our wagon to the Mountain Valley Pony, and the pony is about to break down, because Stanislaus, last I checked, was about, 3/4 of the funding for the agency, and that created an efficiency that means that we didn't have to pay a lot for an administration of this service. If that's not going to happen, then we have another fundamental question before us, which is what's the efficacy of a vastly reduced Mountain Valley operation, and likely either higher costs administratively for us to bear or lower services which may render it less useful, or both. So these are things I hope will come to the board, not after we're being presented with a contract that's essentially been free-form, but that we have an opportunity to have a policy.
Well, Gary's on the committee, and I'm sure he'll...
I think the meeting on the 21st needs to take place first before anything is said or brought to us, or we have a discussion on it, because I think a lot is going to come out. 21st. A lot of these questions, answers to these questions will be coming out in that meeting as it was presented. And again, just going out to the TV audience and people in the room, if you're interested in this topic, you need to attend that meeting. That is a public comment period meeting. The findings from that meeting will be, and the recommendations from that oversight committee will be presented to the Mountain Valley Emergency Services Agency Board at their next meeting. There will be open time for discussion at that time. There also, public would be invited to attend that meeting also for their comments. But I think this meeting on the 21st needs to take place first, where all of this will be addressed, and public can address it in their comments. Stanislaus County has voted a 5-0 vote to remove themselves from that JPA on June, at the end of June in 2011. It gives 18 months notice. It's not like they're pulling out 6 months from now. They could have voted to pull out 6 months from now at the end of June of this. However, they didn't. There's a lot of options, I think, that could be open for that JPA, and I think Steve Andres will be presenting it, what those options are at the next board meeting.
Supervisor Toffenelli, didn't the Stanislaus action said honor before that date?
It said honor before that date, but tentatively it would be June 2011.
Okay, but the fact remains is a contract that went from 2005 to 2010, and then report on performance of the providers and proposed revisions of the agreements.
Are you our representative, or is
No,
Gary?
I am.
Gary's the representative on the Mountain Valley Emergency Medical Services group, and this is more of the in-county MSOC.
The oversight
This is
group.
an oversight committee that
Right.
reports to.
So what time is that again?
6 o'clock.
Here
It's
on
in the board with that statement of honor before they could pull out at any time within.
Well, they can't until
6
the end of
months.
June of this year. That's great.
Do you recall what the reasons stated for that?
They felt they weren't, had anything, their statement in their press release was they didn't have anything in common with the other 4 counties, us being mountain counties and them being a valley county, and they felt that they weren't, for the amount of money they were putting in, weren't getting the service that they felt was at the right level for that amount of money.
Okay, thank you, Gary. I'm sure you'll keep us informed
I will.
of what we should do. Jeannie?
Rita, just a couple more items for the board. Just a reminder that we've received notification from Lundgren's office about if we have any federal projects for which we're seeking appropriations next federal fiscal year. The application process and deadline is February 19th. I know that Public Works is certainly working on some projects, as well as the sheriff. Feinstein has set a February 5th deadline for requests for specific projects. There must be a federal nexus and a regional approach to any such project. So if you're any specific project the board has in mind, please let me know. Tom Garcia with Public Works is pursuing under Boxer's office. She's chair of the Senate Transportation Committee. Money for O'Byrne's Ferry Bridge. So there are things in process. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. We've talked a little bit about it in the past, but that's kind of front and center.
This relates to the email that you sent yesterday?
I sent it a while ago. But I did send the Feinstein one just the other day, right. We just became aware of Feinstein's deadline. We had done Congressman Lundgren's deadline earlier. The governor's budget for fiscal year 10-11, as you know, I feel like I'm dating myself when I say it feels like a game of pickup stakes. but we're entering the current fiscal year with a $6.6 billion deficit and a $12.3 billion deficit in 10-11. So we're confronted with a $19.9 billion deficit over the next 18 months. Now, the governor is really relying on support from the federal government to bail out California. Now, his argument is that California does not receive its fair share of the dollars, of the taxpayer dollars that goes to Washington. This is likely to be a huge fight, but the budget for next fiscal year is really structured on assuming that we'll get some funding, and if not, there will be drastic cuts to primarily Health and Human Services, not only reductions in Medi-Cal, Healthy Families, in-home support. The budget as it reads is actually for total reduction, elimination of some of these programs, should funding not occur and arrive to the state by July. Many of these proposals in the budget require significant discussion, legislation. Some of the Democratic leadership has indicated they will not support them. It's unclear at this time how this will pan out, and so the devil's always in the details. There's certainly a shift to counties in terms of law enforcement, criminal justice costs, when you see some proposals that offenders who are currently sent to prison will be staying in county jails longer, so there'll be an impact to local sheriff departments, probation, DA. There's a proposal for a transportation swap whereby sales tax will be eliminated, but excise tax on gas will be increased. There's some issues without the counties have because that's a declining revenue, not a stable source, and there's some issues around the Prop 42 constitutional requirements. So these are some of the issues that are on the table. The Williamson Act funding is deleted from the governor's budget as well. Suffice it to say, there'll be some long, hard fights, and the legislative committee is meeting an emergency session now for the next 45 days to deal with the current deficit. They're trying to deal with $8.9 billion now, keeping our eyes and ears tuned and providing whatever information we can to our legislative leadership as to how it impacts county services. But there is a possibility that the state will have a cash crunch in March, but that's still to be determined. So there, as you heard this morning, Prop 10 and Prop 63 are also back on the table to go back to the voters a second time for their support to be used to backfill some of the health and social
chambers. In reading through the review of the performance, the thing that sort of jumps out to grab me is the statistical justification for assigning a 20-minute response time to a particular zone, and Copperopolis and Valley Springs are they're kind of at the epicenter, and I'm sure that up in West Point perhaps you have also the same problems. The ambulance service
cuts. Prop 63 is the designated money for mental health services expansion. The proposals are to backfill funding that the state general fund currently funds for managed care and mental health. This was shot down by the voters last May. He's proposing that it come back again in June. Same thing with the Prop 10. The one little sliver, I guess, of good news is that the budget does include funding for counties for the costs that we had already incurred for last May's local election.
But will they pay for the next one?
Yeah, probably not. So suffice it to say, I think it's going to be a long, drawn-out 6 months. We'll try to get ahead of the curve, but we're going to have some very difficult discussions, and I'm hoping the legislature will act, because we need them to act and take some hard stances, because these impacts will impact people significantly. Just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
And that's Epistle 1.
Is that your Kindness Act?
I'm sorry.
Fell a little short, I thought.
I wish I had better news. I ended it with good news.
Anything else?
Nice try.
No.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Jones?
I'm surprised Brian didn't come back on the radon discussion. He mentioned to me in passing yesterday that he was working on a press release, which I assume is available now, which explains to folks how they can get more information. kits on radar gas.
I think the concern I had in reading the article was, it just said, then you find out, and then what? And it was a little lacking on what that meant, somewhere between 800 and a couple of $1,000 or something, but it really wasn't clear on how do you interpret the results. It'd be nice if maybe Brian could expand on that a little, because it just alluded to the fact that you had to be around it for a lifetime. I don't know whose lifetime they're talking about.
I'll pass that on to him.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Anything else, Mr. Jones?
No.
All right, this meeting stands in adjournment and will reconvene on January 26th.
And has been apparently statistically fulfilling their contractual obligation of having a response time of 20 minutes to these calls. However, the methodology for determining that is you can balance a 3-minute response time in Angels Camp against, well, 2 3-minute response times in Angels Camp balanced against a 50-minute response time in Copperopolis, and that's still in compliance with their rules. I don't know whether the board fully understood the way that 20-minute response time would be, the performance would be evaluated over time. I wasn't here.
I mean, there was a great deal of discussion about response times with the EMSOC Advisory Committee when that was established, and the pros and cons, and I think it's worth your while to attend those meetings to hear the full discussion about what's occurred since then, and also that the Oversight Committee will be providing you a report as to not only the performance of the ambulance service as well as the Mountain Valley Emergency Medical Services Agency. You may be aware that Stanislaus County has taken some action whereby they've expressed intent to pull out of the JPA in 18 months, but pending some future steps. So that will all be in the mix.
Did you want to say something?
No, not at the moment.
Okay. Steve?
Some of you may remember 4 years ago we went through quite an upheaval in this service. And we were one of the last counties that featured sort of what's called the ambulance wars, where the stationing of these emergency response teams was generally along the highway corridors where accidents would happen. And different companies would bunch up around the likely intersections and then leave the rural, far-flung areas with service that took as much as an hour to get there. This was considered to be, well, there were complaints from the emergency rooms, there were complaints about training and the state of the service. And a company came in and said, well, we can distribute this better. We will commit to the first year of stationing in Moke Hill and West Point and in Copperopolis and places that had been pretty much left out of the loop. This was very encouraging, although local providers said this will not last and you will come to regret it. Well, the moment has come for some of the areas, and all you need to do is talk to the fire chiefs who are involved in these areas, who are very concerned